Christ, we have 11 pages? Just look through everything like the good person I am, just in case. We are just a bunch of chatty Cathys, aren't we? There we go. It picks up everything. God. That everything fits nicely into a plausible narrative with consistent motives for my actions. I got this. I stand in front of the door and slap myself in the face a couple of times. I'm ready. I can do this. I take a deep breath, knock, and after mere seconds, the door swings open, Evelyn standing right next to it.
Ah, Adrian. I'm glad to see you're all right.
I glance past her. Oh, did I see something flicker? No. Towards Valerie sitting in the back of the room, not even looking at me. Makes me feel like I'd be better off not looking at her either. Yeah, me too. Me too. What does that even mean? I'm also glad to see me all right. Who'd say that? I'm also glad to see the two of you all right. Well, sure. But why wouldn't they be? And is Valerie even all right? Like, emotionally? Was she ever? God, 10 seconds in, I already fucked up. Conversation ain't my forte. With cautious steps, I enter the kitchen sideways, in a way that allows Evelyn to shut the door, while also keeping me as close to the wall as possible. Before she does so, however, she takes a peek inside the living room.
Oh, has Oliver already left?
Right. Yeah.
Huh. Could have at least said something.
I turn towards her, finding her eyes still fixated on the wall. Her words feel just as sharp as before, but her expression makes the shift in her demeanor more than obvious. Is this the results of their conversation, or does she feel sorry for earlier? Either way, I doubt she'd want to admit it.
Well, if it is true that we wanted to discuss matters in private, he must not have seen any reason to disrupt us. I also told him that he wasn't the one I was worried about. Whatever, doesn't matter. Just wanted to make sure he keeps his mouth shut about what we told him, at least for now.
Should I reply? Would she even want to hear what I have to say? Would it help or make things worse? Finally, eye contact. Fuck, eye contact. He said he'd keep quiet.
He did, huh? Oh well, guess I couldn't have done much then. Now it's up to whether he's a man of his word. You still don't trust him? No clue.
Do I? I wonder. Evelyn sighs, pulling back a chair.
Anyway, why don't you take a seat for now?
She sits down next to Valerie. I'm fine. Lean against the wall. I don't know why I decide to decline her offer, but it's too late to just change my mind now.
Alright, I see. Then, just get to it already. What do you know? Why didn't you tell us you knew about Emilia?
Why I knew about her. Judging by those words, they really concluded that I probably didn't know her personally. This might be easier than expected. Alright. Now just don't stumble over your own explanation, alright? Yeah, sorry. I know this doesn't mean much, but it's not like I had planned to keep it to myself from the beginning. When Oliver first told us about her being here, described what she looked like, how she disappeared, I couldn't believe it. Neither could I. Oy. I tried to convince myself that it was some kind of coincidence. Had this been all, I would have still come forward about it as soon as I had calmed down and thought everything through. But then, you beat me to it. Told us you knew Emilia as well.
So what?
Well, I could maybe have tried to believe that me being here was a coincidence. But multiple people in our group alone knowing who Emilia was. Null was a plan for us, in particular, to be here. And if that was the case, I assume more people connected to her had to show up in the opposing team. And who's a more likely candidate for that than her own girlfriend?
So, you really do know Sophie, huh?
Yeah, you were right. I guess it would have come out sooner or later anyway, but I don't know.
You two are friends?
I mean, I don't know. Are we? What would she reply? Something like that. We went to the same school and talked a bit during our last year. Didn't really keep in touch afterwards, until at some point she stopped by my uni, ran into me by chance, and asked whether I had seen Emilia. I hadn't. That was shortly after she went missing.
Huh. So you went to the same university as Emilia then?
Right. But I guess a certain someone already knew that much. Looking over at Valerie, she simply sighs.
Anyway, since that
day, we had occasionally met up to grab a drink and stuff. She talked about Emilia a lot, especially when she was drunk.
I see. So that's how it is. I think I understand how the three of you are connected now. Then, is it fair to assume that you accompanied her when she visited the Neuralink Center?
I guess so. Not that I remember. I still don't have a clue how any of that came to be, or it's the only thing that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, he's finally understanding it. We went to the Neuralink Center with Sophie, and I have to assume that we went there to talk to what's-his-face, Neiman, about Emilia. Or maybe something like that. Maybe we were all called there. Because there's no way, like, so many people with a connection to with a connection to Emilia or the father would show up at that specific Neuralink Center at the same time. I think we were all called there for some reason or another. That's when we got taken.
Evelyn nods, slowly connecting the dots
in her head, except for one.
I apologize, but I fear this still doesn't answer the original question. Why did you keep this hidden up until now? I can't figure out what kind of reason you might have had for doing so.
Why? Huh. I got this. I thought this through. And yet, why? In truth, there seem to be two distinct reasons, one more absurd than the other. But they don't need to know that. One, I will keep to myself. The other, I didn't want. I have no idea how to phrase this without making it sound like I'm the worst, most self-centered person ever. Maybe I am. I didn't want Sophie to die. Neither of them says anything in response. I had a feeling, from the very start, that only the winning team would be allowed to leave this place alive. Am I a good liar? Probably not. Back then, I was only motivated by my fear of Sophie ever finding out. Afraid of anything I share about my relationship with Emilia reaching her. But they don't need to know that. Nobody ever will. It only makes sense, right? Someone who's ready to lock us up against our will wouldn't hesitate when it came to murder, would he? Of course I want to leave. Of course I want to survive. Like the mentally stable person that I am. But if that means making the opposing team lose, outright killing them, then I'm not sure if I can just submit to that.
So, what you're saying is you would have been okay with
Okay, I'm reading it correctly, but for some reason my brain is like, no, you did it wrong.
So what you're saying is you would have been okay with being responsible for our deaths, is that right?
I can't deny that. This would have been the part where she snaps, jumping up while hurling insults and accusations at me. Instead, she simply turns away. I mean, if anything, I'd of course prefer if all of us could make it out of here, but if I have to choose between protecting a couple of people I just met and someone I've known for years, then isn't it a natural thing to pick those that are important to you? Neither of them looks entirely convinced, though they don't have any rebuttals either. Still, how can I... And this isn't just about me, either. It absolutely is. Evelyn, don't you have similar feelings? Isn't your sister on the other team?
That is true. I have tried not to think about that fact.
I'm not saying you need to come to the same conclusion that I have, but can't you at least understand how I feel?
I'm sorry, but I cannot.
I didn't expect this response. Is it really just me?
No matter how much I love her, that doesn't mean I should sacrifice my own life for her sake. There's no point in living like that. No, we should both work towards making it out of here to the best of our ability. Whoever manages to win will have to live her life for both of us.
That's certainly a much more optimistic way to view this dilemma.
Isn't it the same for you? Do you really think that Sophie would want you to die for her?
I just don't think our lives have equal value. I can't live for the both of us. I get what you mean, but it's not like that. I'd be the only one to suffer from losing Sophie. Emilia also remembered Sophie after all. Might still be the only one she remembered. Clearly, she's the most important person in Emilia's life. Is it right to take that from her? I look over at Valerie. Especially for you, who had some sort of connection to Emilia herself. Wow. What are you going to say once you make it out of here? I'm so glad to see you again. Sorry for killing your girlfriend in the process.
Not like she wouldn't understand. Not like it's my fault we're here.
Of course, she's right.
I couldn't care less if you think I sound selfish, but I just want to survive. If that means the other team has to die, oh well, sucks to be them. Stop trying to make me feel responsible for any of this.
You aren't selfish at all. It's absolutely natural to feel this way. If anything, I'm the most selfish out of all of us. But still, if she wants to get out of here so badly, then why did you lie to us? Why did you pretend you only knew Emilia from back at the hospital? She knew that I would ask this question eventually. It was only a matter of time. Taking a deep breath, she straightens her posture, as if to mentally prepare for what's ahead.
Yeah, so this is what we've already discussed while you were out.
She pauses, probably debating whether she should apologize or continue. She continues.
I'll get to that and repeat what I already told Evelyn. At least the relevant stuff. Went on a couple of unnecessary tangents last time. Before that, though, I was just wondering, how did you know?
I already know what tipped her off. She told Oliver. It was recorded on my log. Guess it's only fair to tell her as well. It was right in the beginning, back when Oliver first told us about Emilia. You had quite the reaction to that reveal. You were absolutely sure about who that Emilia was. What did he tell us, though? Sure, her name, and that a guy in a lab coat was working for one of her parents. I guess you could deduce that he was working for Neuralink, just like Emilia's father. Well, that's all you should have known, and that's far from enough to be as sure about knowing her as you were, to react the way you did. So what else did Oliver tell us? For one, that she disappeared roughly 2 years ago. I guess I don't really need to explain why you couldn't have known that. What remains would have been the description of her appearance. Green eyes and long, wavy blonde hair. But that...
I see, yeah, I didn't think about that at all. You're right. If I only ever talked to her in the hospital, there would have been no way for me to connect that description to her.
She nods. Meanwhile, Evelyn looks back and forth between the two of us, understandably confused. Oh yeah, Evelyn, I guess I should explain what I meant. About her appearance and all that. It's simple. The description totally fits all the photos I've seen of her. But I know from Sophie that blonde wasn't actually her natural hair color. And that she only ever started dyeing her hair after graduating from school. Shortly before her first encounter with Sophie. She never saw her the way I did.
Yeah, back when she came to visit me, she still had brown hair. Ah, I see.
Ah! Look at that! We all know things about other things. Okay, So Valerie was lying about only ever seeing Emilia at the hospital. She met her. I guess they were still maybe friends, or maybe just like, you know, having connections and whatnot. Long after, at whatever they were doing, after she graduated. Well, did they just say graduating, or did they say from where? After graduating from school. Okay, they just said from school. Like high school. It must have been like high school. Because if it was college, they would have called it a college.
Ah, I see. The two of you really pay attention to the smallest of details.
I can't deny that. Only possible thanks to my log. All that overanalyzing might have been good for something after all.
If only it would have helped us with figuring out the truth.
To be fair, all of this did manage to bring us much closer towards working together than I could have ever seen coming. And with that, arguably, closer to the truth. Is that a good thing? The more I think about it, the less I hate the idea of it. ...
Well, with that out of the way, Valerie, would you like to tell Adrian about some of the things you shared with me earlier? Sure, that was the plan after all.
She takes a moment to arrange her thoughts before diving straight into the second half of her extensive backstory.
So, when I said we never met again, that wasn't actually a lie. We've only ever seen each other in the hospital. Years went by, life was shit. I went through some stuff. I don't want to talk about any of that again. It doesn't really matter either.
Evelyn nods, as if to confirm that the details aren't relevant to the moments. Well, I prefer to be the judge of that myself, but I guess I shouldn't insist. For now. Ooh.
I could never manage to fully forget her, however. How could I? The very first entries in my log were filled with our conversations. I've always had the urge to talk to her again, and at some point I just called the place her father was working at. That was the only idea I had. And yeah, I managed to get a hold of him. Told him that I felt the need to thank him and all for saving my life. Made some stuff up about how great it's been since. He was happy to hear from me, at least he said he was. I didn't really care either way. All I wanted was to ask for Emilia's link ID. Gave it to me right away, without even asking. Emilia would surely be happy to hear from me as well, he said. And after a bit more of acting like I was interested in his life, we hung up. That was the only time I ever spoke to him. If I had a properly functioning brain, I would have messaged her right away, all like, "Hi, I'm that kid from back then, wanna chat?" But I didn't. Instead, I looked up her profile and read through her post history.
Oh, okay. Internet stalker. Got it. Got it. Yikes. Well, to be fair. Sorry. How old were you at that time?
Right, thanks for asking. Like 14. Yeah, keep that in mind and ignore all the creepy and cringe stuff, okay?
Okay.
I wasn't just doing it to stalk her. Well, maybe I was. But really, I wanted to get in contact with her in a natural manner. Unnatural for me, but natural for her. I was trying to find out what kind of things she was into, what kind of communications she was part of, and then, one day, joined one of them. Was a total bust. I ended up in some weird place full of nerds who were really into mystery stuff. I didn't really know what to say. I never really cared about anything like that, so I mostly just lurked around. It did help me with learning more about Emilia, about what Emilia was doing there, however. What kind of mystery she liked and all that. While she did also talk about movies, books, and games, what stood out to me was that she kept discussing a certain urban legend.
Ooh, was it about the Neuralink stuff? ATA? The NIL? HBO?
I'm sure you can guess what I'm talking about.
Huh, I nod.
I read up about it a bunch, tried to craft my own theories surrounding it, and then rejoined with a new account. My username was Null.
Oh, shit! Valerie is null? Wow. Edgy much? Well, 14. What did I expect? Funny to imagine how things would have gone if she told us her username was null right at the very starts. Could have backfired hard, so I guess it was a good idea to keep it hidden for that alone. It's interesting though. Emilia got her into all this in the first place? It's almost starting to feel like all these things are connected after all. Emilia being here in a game that is based entirely on an urban legend that she was deeply interested in years ago. That can't be a coincidence, can it? Oh! Okay. Emilia was the one interested in the urban legend. So, but what's the point of doing this legend stuff game if Emilia is not even going to be able to remember that she was into this stuff, right? Why? Unless she still remembers that, at least. Unless she's starting to regain some of her memories. Fingers crossed, I guess. But what kind of reason could she have to look into... Could she have had to look into it so much? Maybe...
Hey, are you listening?
Yeah?
Okay.
Not sure whether she believes me, but she at least acts as if she does.
Years went by, and we kept exchanging messages. I learned so much about her, and she so much about me. No matter how much time passed, however, I never once told her anything about who I am. And the longer I waited, the less likely I was to ever change that, the less possible it became. I couldn't just tell her that I was the child from the hospital, that I stalked her and lied to her in order to become her friend. And so, I remained as an empty variable. No, more than one. I never told her my name, my age, my gender, or where I'm from. She knew so much about what I thought and felt, yet so little about who I was. I often wondered how she saw me, what kind of image she had in her mind when thinking about me, what kind of voice she heard when reading my messages, if any. If she ever met me, would that image be shattered?
Fuck, I can't believe it. Is that why you kept this a secret?
Yeah, all the stuff I said about not wanting to reveal too much about Emilia was complete bullshit. I didn't care about protecting her privacy. All I cared about was myself. All this time, the only thing I was worried about was Emilia learning anything about who I was, what I looked like, sounded like, acted like. I wanted to go back to the way things have always been. I wanted to remain nothing. Remain nothing. Everything. Whatever she imagined me to be. That's who I wanted to keep alive the most.
So, by not interacting with her as you were keeping whoever she thought you were today alive instead of changing the way she thinks you are. That's so fucking stupid. I see, is all I can muster the courage to say. Evelyn slowly pats her back. To my surprise, Valerie doesn't complain at all, just remaining silent. What made you change your mind? That's what I would have liked to ask, but honestly, I already know the answer, don't I? It's less what and more who. With every passing hour, we reveal more and more of our past, and Evelyn is definitely doing a great job at convincing us to, well, get along, work together, and all that. What is it that I need to hear to come clean as well, fully, and not just act as if I do? Somewhere deep down, I already know the answer. I just can't quite reach it yet. Oh, what's going on? Valerie gets up from her chair, taking a couple steps toward the wall of permeable plants. Permeable.
Now that I got all this out of the way, I still wonder whether it brings us any closer to solving this whole thing.
Does it? Yeah, we still don't know what truth we're looking for here, right? Well, can I ask something?
Do whatever you want.
What about the time before her disappearance? Did she say anything that stood out? Or did she just stop messaging you without any prior indications? She turns towards me, leaning against the wall with plants glitching through her every now and then.
I wish I could just quote our chat, but I still remember it roughly, our last convo. Yeah, even before that, she hadn't been as active as she used to be for a while. Figured she was just busy with her girl at that point, didn't have much need for me anymore. Whatever. So then, the last time she messaged me, it came as a bit of surprise when she started to apologize for just that. She said stuff about how she was really busy and kind of overwhelmed with life at the moment. That she would explain it all once it settled down. I told her that it was fine. Of course it was. I wasn't mad or anything in the first place. She was extremely grateful, promising to keep the time to catch up.
Promising to take the time to catch up.
That she was just going to take a break. It all seemed weirdly out of character for her, but I didn't question it any further. I was just happy to hear she seemingly cared about me that much. Didn't really understand why. In retrospect, I guess she must have already known that something would happen to her.
Or at least that it might. Whatever kept her so busy at the time did have something to do with all this. Emilia is the one that set up this whole game. She's the reason we're here. All that digging into some strange urban legend wasn't more than simple curiosity.
Even after that, did you still try to message her? Duh, obviously, a bunch of times. Didn't ever get a reply. At first, I didn't think much of it. She wanted to take a break after all. If anything, I felt like an idiot for bothering her to begin with. After months had gone by, though, I started to get worried. I thought about calling her father again, but I couldn't. After all, I had never actually messaged her, despite asking for her ID. If I asked about her again, I would have had to reveal...
Sorry.
I would have had to reveal that Null and I were the same person all along. That I kept that fact a secret from her for years, for no proper reason at all. None that I could explain anyhow. Does that mean you never knew for sure whether she had actually gone missing? That's right. I often wondered whether something happened to her, or if her last words were just her twisted way of cutting me off with minimum guilt. I only got the confirmation today that she had gone missing around the time she stopped replying. In a way, I was glad to hear it. God, I'm disgusting.
At least it's not just me.
Yeah, I'm not alone in my disgustingness anymore.
We quietly remained like this for a while. Honestly, I forgot whatever else I wanted to ask. And maybe I should leave it at that anyway. She said enough for now. Even Emilia seems to have already known that she might disappear, at least for a while. Did she sense that she was in danger? Or is there something else that I'm still missing? Another option?
Anyway, I think that's all I got for now.
She looks over at Evelyn.
You want to try the thing we discussed earlier?
Ooh, thing?
Oh, of course.
She promptly leaves the table, heading towards the living room.
I will return once I'm done, alright?
Right.
Right.
And with that, she's gone. Gone to do what? Who knows? Maybe it has something to do with the door? One of the doors, anyway? Okay. So, more information. Valerie used the name Null in order to connect with Emilia. That's not a coincidence. Her having the username Null and the guy holding us here calling himself Null. But if that's the case, then only our group would know about that, right? Unless there's a similar thing going on in ATB that involved the word null. Because if that's the case, we have a advantage over ATB. But the question still remains, what secret are we looking for? Why she was gone for 2 years? What she was doing for 2 years?